for teaching purposes of the four faces of the tarot, which is the Yad-He Vov-He, father, mother, son, daughter, the four, where in modern Psyche stuff we only have three. We're talking about how these two parts become one part, and you become single-eyed. The one-eyed man is king in the world of the blind. One side of the brain is creative, the other side of the brain is analytical. What's weird is they're switched, because our wires switch. The right side, which the right side of the body is masculine, it's the sun, it's, woo, fire. And then the left side is the moon, the goddess, the mother, the feminine energy. So you have your yang and your yin. Sun and moon, right? Split down the middle, right side dominant, left side receptive. Point. Get to the brain, and it's switched. So if you say, I'm a right-brained person, you're not saying I'm masculine. You're saying I'm feminine. You're saying I'm a left-brained person. I'm analytical. Most scientists are analytical and have absolutely no feminine, with the exception of Einstein. He said imagination was the most important thing. If you read Einstein, maybe you can call yourself a scientist.
What has that got to do with it?
Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
I would want to say I'm left-brained because my left side is feminine. But there's a cortex switch where the wires change, and so brain parts are not cohesive. They are opposite of the sides of the body, and that gives you four. You have a feminine left side of the body, a masculine right side of the body, a feminine right side of the brain, and a masculine left side of the brain. That's four. Now, cut off the head, and we're just getting into the brain. Okay, we're not concerned with the Tao, masculine and feminine, yin and yang, of the body at this point. We're going straight into the brain. The brain consists of three parts in this situation. And this is where most people haven't looked, because it goes beyond this dimension in some ways. First part we know is the masculine left brain, analytical, mathematical, empirical evidence. I must be able to see, measure, and get the same results each time. To the feminine, I am the moon, I am psychic, I am your dreams, I am your pieces of art, even as a little child. I am the creative one. I am the one who speaks with God. In the middle, the part no one talks about, is the third eye. Let's see it as a circle or a pocket in the middle of the brain. It is the pineal gland, and if you're healthy, it's filled with water. If you have a lot of fluoride and crap, it could be dried up, and that might be why you're not psychic. There's some characters involved in this play of the psyche, this play of the masculine left and the feminine right, which is a juxtaposition to start with. In the middle where they meet, it's the pineal gland. I don't want to even call it a gland. I don't want to talk in gross physical terms. This liquid font of light and love, this connection to the divine, the manna, the enlightenment. That's where it comes from. When we gain an ego, and John Bradshaw would say we start to develop that around 4 or 5. As our ego develops, and as our awe at the mystery of life diminishes, and our fear of the unknown greatens, a shadow is formed between the two sides of the brain covering the third eye. Now I like to liken this shadow, this muck, this murk, this distortion, this blanket, this veil. I would liken it to Carl Jung's shadow. Now, he was very abstract, even as the Swiss amazingness of his preciseness. His language, because it was so scientific, made the shadow abstract. His only way of expressing that shadow was to explain what it does, give it a name, give it, read its energy, and understand it, and kind of anthropomorphize it, make it into a shadow, a being, a creature, a thing, a haunting of the psyche. Now, this shadow is also linked to the anima-animus theory, which is every physical male has a female aspect in his psyche called the anima. Some say it's the female side of the masculine, and some would say that homosexual men display their anima more than their masculine traits. On the flip side, the female, and this goes for both, I'm just better at explaining the female because it's personal. The female, her animus, her masculine side, is based upon, now we're going to see it as a shadow made up of things, events, impressions, experiences. So, her shadow is made up of her father, any male siblings, experiences at school that happened with men, her attitudes about men, what she's learned about men, all of her ideas about men are infused like a syringe, infused into the shadow, giving it form, giving it life, giving it energy. Now, we no longer have this abstract blanket of fear blacking out the third eye. Now we have an actual shadow. If you feed your anima-animus negative crap, all men are the same, all men want one thing, all men. When you feed that to your shadow, it becomes an entity. It becomes the controller of your emotion, your choices, your karma, and it gains power over you. Think about that. Know that. Understand that. As we grow up and begin to fall in love, find romance, that shadow entity becomes more revealed, becomes more obvious. In the mirror of a romantic relationship, we see our shadow and our opposite side, masculine, feminine, anima or animus. For example, if you were very repressed in your childhood, let's make this a male scenario, someone who had a mother who was very controlling and smothering, when that man becomes a man, when he grows up and falls in love, he is more than likely going to find a woman that personifies his mother, mother, those traits, so that he may continue the dysfunctional behavior of being codependent, controlled, smothered, just like he was in his childhood. Frequently, when you're trying to grow and evolve, there will be a monkey wrench in the works. So he has problems in this relationship because he starts fighting against being controlled. And that causes really a lot of trouble because he chose this woman because she exemplified the traits that his mother had that kept him down and said, I want you because you will do the same thing. And then he begins to rebel against that. And she's like, what the heck? You know, you knew who I was, you knew what I was doing, and you liked it. And now you're treating me like I'm the enemy? And then, you know, if she has any smarts, she'll be like, this is all about your mother. quickest way to heal the masculine or feminine aspect is to be in a relationship, to have the mirror of relationships. A lot of people think, oh my gosh, I'm so happy when I'm not in a relationship. Everything goes well in my life. And as soon as I get in a relationship, everything gets chaotic and things go downhill. And it's because when you're alone, you don't have that mirror. You're just doing your own thing. There's no pressure on you. Romantically, as a man or a woman, you're just doing your thing. Once you're in a relationship, you're relating. And that's where the sick, controlling anima or animus comes right on in. And of course, there's always the opposite story, of the woman who likes the bad boy. The feminine, the animus, the woman's masculine side, well, we've all heard, oh, I like bad boys. Yeah. I wonder what your dad was like. And looks forward to and anticipates and participates in her own self-degradation. To be attracted to somebody you know is going to hurt you is self-destructive. Now, you can't help what you're attracted to necessarily, but you can help your actions and be your own loving parent and say, I'm not really sure I want to get on that motorcycle with that stranger. And it's really not romantic. It is codependent. So you're in a relationship with another being, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your husband, your wife. You learn the lessons of your childhood, basically. And you heal and you get over that. And eventually you find the right person because you've healed your masculine or feminine side. The work in relationships is to have the mirror there. Because like I said, when you're not in a relationship, you don't have the mirror, you're fine. When you have someone else triggering, touching your buttons, setting you off because they're acting like somebody acted like in your childhood, they're bringing out childhood reactions, you're no longer a responsible adult. You have been diminished to childish actions and childish feelings. And it's because it's a big deja vu for you. So, oh my God, I totally felt this way before. And I can't believe I'm feeling it in this, what's supposed to be a loving romantic relationship. So I want you to know that no matter if your anima or animus are healthy or not, they are helping you choose your partner. And your attitudes towards whatever sex you are attracted to, those attitudes are infused into your anima animus, and your anima animus will provide. It is your boogeyman. Anytime you call, it will be there.
I'm your boogeyman. That's what I am. I'm here to do whatever I can. Be it early morning, late afternoon, or at midnight. It's never too soon. I'm the boogeyman. I do what you want.
It will scare up a bad relationship for you at a moment's notice. Understand that what you feed it is what it gives you. Changing our attitude about the opposite sex, first we must understand where we got it, how it came about, how our father treated us, or if he abandoned us, we have fear of abandonment, how our teachers treated us, how we looked at authority figures that were masculine or feminine. Once you find out the origins, the original wounds, the original pain, then you will stop blaming the now. and you will begin rediscovering your past with new eyes. You're never going to suffer like you did. You've already been through that. This is the dissection of what you've been through. So emotionally it's difficult, but you're not literally re-experiencing it. So be gentle with yourself. Let the truth come through. Write it down. Blog about it. Get it out. Sharing also helps, because when we share our experiences, we help others. And that's good energy that helps us. And tell other people to share. Once we have these new eyes, the miracle, the magic, the grace that begins to happen, the big wow, is I am not broken. I see why these things happen to me, and I see exactly why I reacted the way I did. And more than that, I forgive myself. And then compassion, self-compassion begins. That is an extremely important point. Self-compassion. This is where you are no longer able to play the codependent savior role. If you want a savior, if you want a messiah, look inside ya. It's there. Always. The kingdom of heaven is within. Self-compassion. Saying, oh my gosh, I'm going to step back. I'm going to look at my past. And I see what this person went through. And it fills me with compassion. I know that's me. But at the same time, damn, that person went through a lot. It's very important to step back and to be able to see ourselves, our parents, and everyone else as a person. Unfortunately, we are not all super divine beings at this point. We are egos with personalities and quirks and problems. We're all mad here, as the Cheshire Cat said. So understand it's really nobody's fault. And that's the understanding that you get from this exercise, from the self-blessing of going back, reviewing your past, and understanding from a new perspective that you're only human. The way I healed my inner masculine, my animus, was through first trying to truly understand him, his nature, where he comes from, what his origin was, how he came into my psychology period. Was I born with the masculine side? Was he always there? Or did he appear one day? How did all that work? And being a psychic, I got information that was beyond anything I could have read in a book. It was a practice of mine as a young girl. How old was I? 18, 19, 20. It was a hobby, something I was experimenting with, to put my boyfriends under slight hypnosis and to bring out their feminine side. I really wanted to know about my masculine side. I didn't know how to do it to myself necessarily, so I used them as a conduit to learn, to study, to understand. I was able to get information from her, and the man who had been the channel for that information, who I'd been speaking with, his Psyche, was amazed. He was like, wow, I really feel her, I see her, I know her, she's there. And he told me later that he could talk to her when he was at work, and they began having a good relationship, and because he understood and he just got it. He just understood it because it was shown to him, literally. That was not a spirit guide, it wasn't a dead person, it was literally his anima. And I got a lot of answers out of that. Is it with you since you're born? Yes, you are born with it. Its nature is somewhat like, the best I can describe or get close to, it is a developing psyche that develops along with your normal psyche. It is an opposite psyche if you like, but only for training purposes. It is a part of you, and it is an integral component of enlightenment. With the sick, masculine or feminine, you will never find enlightenment. So it is one of the healing components and one of the steps on the path. So how I healed my side was, to go into it first. What is this thing? And that's my analytical masculine side saying, smelling it like a dog. What is it? I don't know. I don't know how to deal with it unless I know what it is. And I'm a very visual person in my head. If you say, see an apple, bam, there's an apple. So I dealt with it visually. Lori Cabot, in her book Love Magic, has a little meditation that introduces you to your masculine or feminine side, your anima animus. So I really encourage you to do that if you haven't done it already. So of course I went and met my dude. At first, when I first got in touch with my animus, he was very vampiric. And he's big old dark Dracula, crazy, scary, creepy, weird. I was like, okay, that's what I'm dealing with. And of course that's what I'd fed it. That's what it became. Obviously from the vampire we can get, this girl tends to attract men who will take from her and not give back. Men who will try to control her and all the other things that the creature vampires do. There's also an enchantment aspect to it. A spell. I can control you with my eyes. That whole give your power unto me, boogeyman aspect. That's enchanting. Alluring. But of course all of that is very glamour. I'm speaking about a time of which I was 19, 20, around there, when I first checked in with my animus, and this is the form it took, alluring vampire. There were many aspects of my boyfriends that matched that, but in many ways it never went too far, and it was never that brutal. It was worse in my head than it was in reality. And as my animus developed, he became more just gothic, just dark, a little bit more morose, depressed, heavy, repressed. So it is possible that I did play his mistress and repress him. Extremely possible, because I needed to take on his traits to learn about myself. What I thought men were, I needed to become. Mine was based on an abusive stepfather who was very domineering. I believed that I had a choice to take on either my mother's role or the man I grew up with role. Well, my mother's role was sweet, and I did not want to be weak. I identified more with the need to be strong, to protect myself. I didn't know that at the time. I just wanted to be strong. So I took on the dark persona, and I borrowed from my animus, and I borrowed from my childhood, and I became a domineering. And that led to a few short relationships where domineering worked. Yet, the relationship I had with an alcoholic, the one and only relationship I had with an alcoholic, I was so ignorant and young. I didn't know he was an alcoholic. I thought, oh, he drinks a lot. I didn't connect the, whoa, he's an alcoholic like my dad. what am I doing here? But I found out one day exactly what I was doing there. We started talking about his childhood, and he really opened up and was very honest. And I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds so much like my childhood. And then you could have heard the record skip. You could have heard it. It was palpable. I said, oh my God. We are just reliving our childhood crap and playing it out in a drama. Now, he did not have that epiphany with me, unfortunately. Boy, did I. And I broke up with him and I quit. No more dominatrix, no more domineering, no more trying to be the abuser. Because I understood it. I got it. I got it. Lock, stock, and barrel. Understood. End of show. Close curtain. Okay, so to recap, before I started dating the alcoholic, in the vampiric version of my animus, I would like to describe that a little bit more. I think it needs a little more meat on it. So around this time, Bram Stoker's Dracula came out. Around the time I first got in touch with my animus. And there's some kind of magic in that movie. There's some kind of hook or trigger in that movie that made me think of it in very esoteric ways. The shadow was heavy in that movie and present. Thank you, Gary Oldman. Bram Stoker's Dracula became more of what I saw my animus as, which I think was a good thing, because before he was not refined and really icky and more of an Nosferatu. And at this point, he was more like, well, I'm British, I'm Victorian, I'm cool, I'm a prince from Transylvania. So there was some more slickness to it and dapper, debonair. Yeah, more of an intellectualness to it. I could relate to it more, I could talk to it. And I dreamt about it often asking the vampire if he could be faithful, if he could be loving, if it could be forever, you know, that romantic dream. And always in the dreams, when I asked him these kinds of questions, other women would show up and say, he promised me a world and now I am in sorrow, warning me like his bride, saying, oh no, don't do it. And he was pretty honest, usually saying, I am what I am, I do what I do. So I never really gave over to that, because I never wanted that. I was aware enough in the dreams to ask, because I wasn't ready to just give. So that shows that strength had been built at that point, that I was able to say, no, that doesn't sound like any fun at all, thank you very much. And with that rejection, he began to change even more to the morose, depressed, repressed character. And so I do believe I did go through a period where I repressed my negative animus, because I had pigeonholed it, I put it in a box, I said, that's what you are, I defined it. I worked with it actively in meditation, through speaking to it, through dreams, through getting guidance through dreams. I worked with it in relationships, because I knew what you fed it, it became. So I really stepped back from my relationships and started looking at them as learning. I was in karmic relationships. I was in relationships to learn. It was school. It wasn't about the romantic fall in love, get married on the beach kind of thing. It was about, this is hard work and I want to get through it. So I engaged my animus, and I tried to find where the congruencies were between my attitudes toward men and my attitudes toward my boyfriend, and his attitudes toward women, and where those came from. The whole nine. I had to know my psychology and his psychology to be able to make sense of it all, and kind of put it into the analytical calculator that if he grew up repressed and I grew up to be dominant, let's say, we would have that dynamic. And I started fighting against the dynamic, like we all do when we're waking up. And in the way I chose to fight against the dynamic, I'm sure at first was just fighting. But then I became aware of the wait. I'm just engaging more with my animus in a negative way. I need to do it in a positive way. And I think that's why I repressed it altogether, the animus, and started working with the feminine, my own psychology, and healing my own psychology. I was really working with my animus actively and being able to look things up on the internet. And then I still had guidance dreams as I was in relationships. So this would have been when I was around 25, and I went to sleep one night really thinking about it. In the dream, I woke up in the morning and my shower was on. And I was like, there's no one here, I live alone, who's in my shower? And I went in there, and behind the plastic curtain I could see a masculine form. I was like, huh. So I went and I opened the shower, and it was Marilyn Manson. He was bloody. It looked like he'd been through a battle. Real slimy and gross and wounded, just very wounded. And his eyeliner was all runny. Instead of being freaked out or scared, I felt compassion for him, because what I saw most was not his fearsome appearance, it was his wounds. I was like, oh my gosh, you poor baby, what did they do to you? And so I got in the shower with him, and I started healing his wounds, and woke up shortly after that. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm healing my inner Marilyn Manson. So the form my animus took in the shower that day was very vibrant, very brilliant, very in your face. And I understood a great teaching at that point, that we must have compassion for suffering, and especially our own suffering. There is much more to this story. I feel the Marilyn Manson dream was the beginning of the deeper healing, the more spiritual healing of my inner male. My animus became a butterfly.
Father, I hold the world in my grasp. And yet this girl distracts me. It has been an eternity since I felt such desire.
She fascinates you because her soul is pure. Change her spirit. Hypnotize her.
Shadow Man, my Jungian vampire, dream actor, magnetically alluring, how I dance with my captor. He smiles with points and angles. My mad creation. Is it me, my people? Is it me, my people, my nation? Slavery to the scene he plays in my head. He follows me when I sleep. I feel him when I weep.
Compassion heals all aches.
Shadow man, shamans deep.
Compassion heals all aches.
Shaman child, rainbow snake.
To rule the skies of the mind, we must confront the shadow.
Dance with me, Bone Daddy. You're just right for an old French tune. Past lives flash ahead, spinning fortune's thread.
Sacred marriage. This is a continuation of the Animus Code video. In my many years of healing and dealing with the animus, I came to a point where I did not understand how to picture my animus any longer. In the past, the animus reflected my attraction to Gothic men. I formulated the image of the perfect man in my mind, and I discovered in Laurie Cabot's book, Love Magic, the inner male was the form I would attract in my reality, the inner male being the animus. I empowered my animus through ritual or spiritual concentration upon him. I invoked him into my reality through magic and creative visualization. After I had invoked the form and personality I desired in my romantic partner, a new romantic possibility would show up in my life, in the facade of my animus projection. I became very skilled at this art of attraction. I found if I recognized energy in a fictional character that I really resonated with, not to mention a physical attraction to the actor who was carrying the energy, I would end up with an opportunity to be romantically involved with someone who looked like the character and for a short time carried the illusion of acting like the character. Sooner or later the mask wore thin and I would see the truth behind the glamour. I cannot say that I regret this form of magic. I was able to invoke karmic relationships so that I grew at my own pace, putting me in charge of my own evolution. I came to understand that I was not being attracted by what matters most, and that is the heart. I was mistaken when I thought the light I saw in others, in my partners, was pure. It wasn't pure. It was personality, something I now term as flavor. The light of God comes in many flavors. Would you like some David Bowie today, or perhaps a bit of Beyonce? We are attracted to these flavors of personality type energy. I myself can dig a philosophical intellectual with a dash of Prince any day. Yet remember, the flavor of a romantic partner has nothing to do with their state of heart. That which we observe as the flavor is the archetypal energies that converge to make the false ego self, or personality of the individual. When looking for true love, look beyond the flavor into the heart of the matter. Soon after my
initial work with John the Baptist came Jesus, or otherwise known as Yeshua. I had many visions of a white dove along with the eye in the triangle. Yeshua was very real to me in these spiritual transmissions. I went from feeling loved by him to acting out his role. One evening during this Kundalini experience, I remember with keen insight. I had just had a relationship break up. I was dealing with not only that, but every relationship in the past. I was really cleansing and healing myself. But at this point, I was worked up over the lover and love in general. I was asking God to help me understand relationships. I was crying and mourning lost love. Then I felt this total peace come over me. And I sat with that for a moment. And then the grief welled right back up again. And I was in misery, but then the peace came again. I heard Bono from U2 singing the entire song, One Love. You could literally hear it. As the song went on, my emotions shifted. He asks in the song, "Have you come here to play Jesus to the lepers in your head?" Yes, Bono, I have come here to heal. I was actually dealing with my lepers right there in my bedroom with the help of God. The voice of Bono was so meaningful and healing, as if Yeshua himself was singing to me. This was a full-on auditory, emotional, and visual experience. I could feel the friction building up in my heart as I went from one complete emotional state to its opposite. My heart began to feel like the revving of a motor, like a working machine, no longer occupied by any one feeling. I felt so free with this new knowledge. I could feel it working in my body, on and off like a switch, happy, sad, there it is. I did not assume that I had finally snapped and gone loopy. I knew I had been shown, literally, that emotions are illusions as well. I no longer cared to be attached to emotions, no longer a slave to my whims and fancies. I was shown that I could run the machine of my emotions instead of the other way around. This video involves cracking the Animus Code as well as my Kundalini journey. In this story, they both converge into one meaning. In the last Animus video, I mentioned how I was trying to re-envision my Animus because it was no longer working for me. The gothic, darker image, I had decided I no longer wanted to attract relationships through ritual means, through meditation. I was more opening up to the universe and saying, maybe you have a better idea than I do of what I need and what's nurturing in a relationship. And then I came to the conclusion that people are personalities and flavors, and the most important part of them is their heart. So I'm picking up where I left off with that last video, and I write, since 2004, I had cleared my internal image of what I found attractive or alluring in a romantic partner. The only man or male archetype I consciously communicated with in my psyche was Hermes, as the Greek statue or the marble man. By 2004, I had matured enough to see my vision of the perfect man was no longer serving me. Also at this time, I changed my manner of dress from time to time, from wearing black every day to wearing these bright orange colors and pinks. So I also was lightening up in appearance. I contemplated what form my animus would take, if he were more holy, grounded, centered, if I could extract the gothic or darkness out of him and see him as a healed being. And that, of course, brought me to thoughts of Jesus, but that didn't seem exactly right to me. And at the time, I decided it would be easier to ask my spirit guide Hermes what was going on and how to envision my inner male at this point, instead of trying to psychoanalyze myself. And this is the story of what happened when I approached Hermes with this question. Hermes told me in ancient times past, the statues themselves were interfacing devices that could be inhabited by the gods to communicate with a student in meditation. I sat down, closed my eyes, and brought Hermes' face into my mind's eye. The first thing I noticed was his proud golden garments. He was in color. Flesh, not the statue. I felt immense awe to be so close to this perfection. I wanted somehow to merge with this amazing force of eternal love. I looked into Hermes' face. I was excited because I had never seen his face with flesh before. I was very curious to see what he would look like as a human. Instead of seeing his perfected flesh made manifest, I saw a bright beam of white light, swirling and infinite with electrical currents, stars, and universes. The vision was conveying that the light was God. The light is in all flesh. Do not worship the flesh. It is God within the flesh that you truly love, not the form it takes. The form is merely a vessel of the light. What you think you love in the form is just the light that resides within the form. The more you can see the light, the more you are attracted to the form. The form is the illusion, the projection of light. The clearer or more balanced the channel or vessel or form, the more light can shine through. Giving my heart to an identity, to a personality, to a flavor, is idolatry. I was a child in awe, worshiping statues. I have loved the man, the beast, the logical mind, over the divinity within them. And the vision continues. I now see Hermes. He's in a cave by firelight, standing against a brown stone wall. The light from the fire reflects brilliantly off his golden armor. I do not see the fire, yet I see it reflecting off the armor and the walls. I see him with flesh again. However, as I focus in on the features of his face, he transforms into all archetypes. It's almost like by the simple fact of observing him, I cause his appearance to change. Then I saw Hermes in statue form, walking up a white-capped mountain. This reminded me of the hero's journey, popularized by the American mythologist Joseph Campbell. My animus was about to experience the vision and initiation of Hermes the god, as I had just done, in the cave, in the mountain, among the firelight. My animus became enlightened. Profound justification was enjoyed. I had cracked the animus code, set forth by Dr. Carl Jung. The animus must reach enlightenment along with the ego identities.
a co-enlightenment. This is the great balance that leads to the sacred marriage, spoken of in occult literature. I was then visited by my fairy, Isabella. She instructed me to dig out a drawing I had done of her back in 1993. In the picture, she's holding a castle in her left hand. Her index finger of her right hand is over her lips in a silenced position. I remember when I drew the picture, I had the feeling she was telling me a secret I had forgotten about until she instructed me to look at the art again. Isabella opened the castle as if it were a box. "I have a secret to tell you," she said. Her energy was electric and chipper. "I'm getting married," she announced. Out of the box, she drew a golden wedding band, a symbol of love and fidelity. The ring glowed with a light of its own. She placed it on her right hand Apollo finger. She beckoned me to come to see the wedding. It was indeed a fairy wedding, with all the trimmings. Enchanted. Isabella once again showed me her ring, and then it morphed into an infinity symbol. I asked Isabella just who she was, what part of me. She answered that she was my inner child, but not like that. "I was never a child," she said. "I was always a fairy." Then she showed me the Lover's card from the Thoth Tarot deck. I noticed the children, one black, one white, inside the couple getting married. By the end of this vision, I was exhausted and elated. I remember the vision seemed to flow right along as if I was watching a play. I felt I'd learned many great truths and was a bit stunned by the velocity of my gnosis. So in summary, I came to my spirit guide with the question, how do I figure out my animus now? How do I envision him? I opened myself up to the answer, and then I channeled this vision that included meeting the god Hermes himself, the universal one force that comes under the aegis of Hermes. There are many forms of God. There are many, all are of the same light. I was taught about the idolatry of flesh, personality, and flavor. I saw the statue Hermes making his way to the temple to meet the god Hermes and have self-realization. I was then visited by my inner child, saying that she was getting married, and that indeed is the sacred marriage spoken of in alchemy, hermetics, and even the Thoth Tarot. I hope that hearing this part of my story enriches your spiritual path. Blessings and namaste.